There are 200,000 average monthly searches for Botox alone, only in the US. And the competition is low. So top of page bid is $5, but it's still low competition, 22% year over year change. So completely sold on this. More generally speaking, I'm completely sold on lead generation sites with programmatic SEO and basically automated AI generated content, plus paid Google ads, like kind of like a 3-tier strategy. So we're trying this. All right, welcome to the Kerner office. I'm still fired up from this episode I just had with Connor Gross. He's a guy I met on Twitter that's a lot like me. He's 10 years younger than me. He lives in New York, but he has an e-commerce business. He buys self-storage. He wholesales self-storage. He made 360 grand profit on a wholesale deal. He's just always ideating, launching things, hacking. Like, he's all like me. And so I want to start interviewing people like that where we can just riff on ideas. And we had no shortage of ideas. Programmatic SEO, lead generation sites, Botox, Hyrox, selling energy bars, you name it. For like 50 minutes, we just jammed on ideas nonstop, and it was really fun. So let me know if you like it. And I want to have Connor on every month or so. Enjoy. We've got Connor Gross here. Connor is a friend that I met on Twitter, and he's a lot like me, except younger. You're in your 20s, right, Connor?
Yeah, I just turned 27 last month.
So 10 years apart. I'm 37. So Connor lives in New York, and he buys self-storage, and he starts businesses, and he's in e-commerce, and we're doing a lot of the same stuff, and he's definitely an idea guy. So I just wanted Connor to come on and just talk business ideas and just riff on some cool stuff.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's funny hearing you say the idea guy part too, because I was on a call yesterday with a friend who actually lives in Dallas-Fort Worth, so remind me to connect you with him if I haven't yet. And we were talking, he's 2 years younger than I am, and he was like, oh yeah, I want to launch this business because I'm doing these things. He has 2 companies right now. Both of them pay him a ton of money, and he makes good money on it. But he's like, I'm not going to spoil the idea that he wants to go after, only because it's, he's very into it. But he's like, I want to do this, and I want to do this for the next 50 years, and this is going to be my big thing. And he's like, I have so many ideas. I hate the fact that I'm getting like, shiny object syndrome. And he was like, what about you? Like, what's your favorite business that you run right now? It's like, well, if I'm being honest, like, it's probably going to be the next one, because things always seem better when you haven't started them yet. And it's like that classic, I don't know if you've seen the graph before, but it's like, you have this idea, you're like, why hasn't anyone thought about this yet? And then you start getting into it, you're like, oh, there's actually a ton of competition for this. And then you start launching it, and you're like, this is really hard. And then you get a win or two, and you're like, okay, it's actually not as bad as I thought. Like, coming from the idea guy background, it's like your favorite idea is always the next one, because you don't know all the headaches and frustrations and struggles that are going to, be a part of that journey.
I know. And it's kind of like we're hardwired to forget. Like, forgetting is a feature, not a bug. Like when I run ultra marathons, every single time throughout the whole thing, I'm like, this is stupid. I'm an idiot. You're dumb. Why are you doing this? No one cares that you're out here. This literally doesn't matter. You're in extreme pain. This takes 36 hours. Never do this again. And then I cross the finish line and I feel good. And then it's like, okay, whew, that was awesome. I'm glad I finished, but never doing it again. And then like 2 days later, to like, as if I could set an alarm to it, I start looking up the next race. It's like, what? And same with businesses. Like, all right, this is really hard. This is really hard. Like, let's stick to what you know. Like, don't go out of your comfort zone. And then I just, either I'm an idiot or I just forget and I do it all over
again. I think it's human nature to forget. Like right now, I'm living in New York. I'm in Jersey at the time of this recording, but my girlfriend took the bar, the New York Law Bar, last year. And I remember her being extremely stressed out the entire time. And we were talking about it this past weekend because everyone's getting ready to take the bar again. And she was like, oh, it wasn't that bad. I was like, you forget. It's very common nature to only remember the good things from a situation. So
yes. So you texted me about this idea. What is Tegus?
Oh, you don't know Tegus?
I don't know Tegus. So, is that like an indie band?
Tegus blew up. Tegus is, well, okay, let me just Google their thing so that I can read out the exact name of it. But it's effectively like intelligence, research, insights. So if you ever heard of these companies where they'll effectively say, you have $100 million fund and you want to figure out, you want to get involved in, let's just use self-storage because it's relevant. You want to get involved in the self-storage sector. Great. You know nothing about self-storage. Tegus is going to connect you with everyone who owns, or with professionals and people in the industry who own or like are involved with self-storage. So realtors, brokers, owners, sellers, wholesalers, whatever. Like if you are in the space and you know what you're talking about, they are going to connect you with them. Now,
Okay.
there are plenty of these like consulting style platforms. The really interesting and arguably genius part of what Tegus is doing is they're not marking up the conversation. So if I turn around and say, you know something, I'm down to have conversations all day long about self-storage, put some time on my calendar, Tegus, build me out at $250 an hour. The normal company is going to say, all right, we're going to charge $500 an hour to meet with Connor, and we are going to take the difference. Tegus is saying,
is that like Catalant?
I think Catalent does that. Yep, Catalent does that. Who's Alpha Sites does that. There are a couple other ones that do it, and they mark you up for your service, but they're also bringing the client in, so they provide a value. What Tegas does is pretty interesting. So you pay a platform fee. I kind of forget what the platform fee is. I'm on their website right now, but like any good company, they have a pricing page and don't put the pricing on the website. So they will say, all right, I think it's like $5 or $10 a year, let's call it. You pay that. You get unlimited access to the people you want to talk to and with no markup. So it's like the Costco-esque model. But more than that, what you're also paying for is you get access to a database or a library of all of the other conversations that have ever been had on the platform. So because they transcribe them. And so what they tell you is like, all right, if you book a time with Connor and you talk about self-storage and you talk about how you want to take advantage of a deal down in Southeast Florida, whatever, they'll remove like the incriminating / highly personal details of the conversation, but they will include the key insights, and they'll give you I think it's a 2 to 3 week head start to act on that information. And then afterwards, the transcribing or the recording or the data is then put into their database as well. I think that this is a super interesting type of business because it gets you all of this really unique data without you having to build it at all. Like it's crowdsourced data effectively. I think building some kind of research company that can then turn into a data product, like I have another example after I finish this rant, I think can be really, really profitable.
So who's paying the platform fee? Is it people like taking the calls or making the calls?
The people that are making the calls. So if
I'm a big hedge fund and I want to learn about self-storage, I pay $5 to $10 a year. And then the self-storage expert doesn't pay anything. He gets paid an hourly rate.
Yep. The self-storage expert gets paid an hourly rate. Right. So the Tegus is reaching out to these experts and they are saying, join the platform. It costs you nothing. You can only make more money. So it's a no-brainer pitch.
Okay.
It's also pretty cool. Like, from just to give you an idea in terms of like their customer base, they have 3,000 customers. And so like, I don't know. You and I come from the e-commerce world. 3,000 customers is cool. It's not anything crazy, but they have 3,000 customers, but they're valued at $4 billion. They do a lot in revenue, and they have grown like a weed in the last 5 to 6 years. So I think that one is really cool. And so let me give you another breakdown in terms of this business model applied in a different industry that can be a little bit more niche because I think
something that's like more like we could wrap our heads around.
Yeah. So I've got a friend, college buddy, one of my old roommates. He is in the food sector. So crazy background, but like he graduated college and moved out to Montana, lived on a bison ranch and started basically creating their bison jerky line and like marketing it towards independent grocers and chain stores and all of that. He quickly realized, damn, if you want to navigate either any of these small stores, like, Joe's health food store on the corner of 123 Main Street, or if you want to get into Kroger's nationwide, it's really hard because the little guys don't have their contact information online because they don't need it. And the big guys don't have their contact information online because it's a hell of an org chart and it's difficult to navigate. So he has since left that jerky business and he's working with someone else right now. And what they do is they sell a service to small independent brands. So if you have your Chris's Coffee and he says, okay, I'm going to get you into every, I'm going to be your business development arm. You're great at making coffee. I'm great at sales. We are going to call around all of these stores, try to get you into all of the shops that you need. Our markup is we charge a small flat fee / a recurring fee plus X percentage of whatever the PO is that we get you at that company, right? So that alone is a good model. You can back into the profit on that model. It's reoccurring revenue. You eat what you kill, so you only get part of the upside, and it's niche, so like it appeals well.
He's kind of like a broker, right? Like he builds up all these relationships. Maybe it's with Joe, the owner of one grocery store. Maybe it's the regional buyer for Albertsons. And he's like, hey, I've got some bison jerky for you. Hey, I've got some organic coffee for you. And just takes a cut of the purchase order.
And so he's a broker in that sense. And, he builds up the business development arms for these different companies. But the other really interesting thing that he does is he's basically like turning the light switch on in the room. And he's like, all right, here's the contact information for the small guys. Here's the org chart of who's the buyer in this category with their email and their phone number in this category. And he takes all of this information and he basically sells his CRM. So he sells his CRM as a data product where he says, you're a small independent company. You want to get into retail. You don't want to pay me. That's fine. You don't have to pay me. Buy my data product instead. And I think that's really cool because the data is essentially the sawdust, let's call it, of all of the work that he's doing for this service brand, which is already profitable. And now the cost of goods sold, or like a product essentially that he's selling, is a $0 fulfillment cost because he already has it built out.
So he's doing both. He's doing like the higher ticket but harder part of just calling these guys on behalf of the food brands. And then is the data that he's selling just a monthly subscription or a one-time fee or what?
Yep. Monthly subscription. You get access to it. It's updated on a daily basis. You get new buyer information. You get their email, their contact information, where they're at. Like, it's a cool concept.
That is cool. Cause I mean, he's probably going to end up making more than these food brands are.
He will definitely, I mean, unless he's working for the RX bar, right? Eventually the food brands take this biz dev in house, but he will definitely be making more than the food brands, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we used to own a company called Send Eats where we did all the logistics for these niche food brands, and they don't make any money. Most of them go out of business. It's a really brutal, tough business. So I'd rather be on the data side of it.
I agree. I went to school up in Boston. I went to Northeastern. There were two guys, one while I was in school, one after I graduated, that I got in contact with. And the poster child of entrepreneurship at Northeastern during the time that I was there was this company called Eat Your Coffee. They sold, essentially call it RX bars with caffeine infused in them. Cool concept. It was really niche. And like, this is also coming during the time when, like, right now I feel like if I'm on Twitter, if I'm reading entrepreneurship stuff, people are leaning more towards the boring stuff, the things that are proven ideas. This was during the time when, like, people wanted that Uber. People wanted to hear you run a company, and not just that it's a painting company, but it's a sexy brand. And the guys that were running this company, they launched it. They formulated a way to get caffeine into a bar. They scaled up. They got some fundraising. They got into retail. But I think at the end of the day, they had, an okay exit. Like, not to down talk them, good friends of mine, but like,
sure.
They had a fine exit. It wasn't like they are retiring on a beach somewhere. After that, I'm 2, 3, 4 years post grad at this point. I had a conversation with this other kid who's at Northeastern, and he's like, I am launching seaweed chocolate bar. And I was like, and he's like, oh, there's all the benefits of the seaweed. And I was like, dude, you seem smart. Like, you seem like a hustler. Like, I can tell just based on the fact that we're on this phone right now. Like, you like coming up with ideas. You like launching stuff. You're like an entrepreneurial person. Like, you will be successful in something that you do. I'd never want to be the bearer of bad news when it comes to it. Like, prove me wrong if this is the case. But I would say you could probably make more money doing something that is more proven out.
Yeah.
So, unless you're like the RX bar founder, who I don't know if you've seen recently.
Yeah.
Have you seen the new product he's launching?
What's it called?
I think it's called David. I think it's called David's Bar.
I don't know if I have heard of that.
Is it in Florence?
I think so.
It's like the Greek sculpted god. Yeah, it's going to be cool. I don't know how he does it, but it's like 150
David protein?
It's 150 calorie protein bar with 28 grams of protein.
All right. If you are watching this clip right now, you are watching this on YouTube. And if you are a fan of podcasts, please check out my podcast while you're at it, because sometimes I have podcasts that aren't on YouTube and sometimes I have YouTubes that aren't on podcasts. So check out the Kerner Office on any podcast platform, or you can go to tkopod.com. Also, my newsletter, we'll throw that in there. There are no ads. It's weekly. It's different content than my podcast and YouTube. Newsletter.chrisjkerner.com. You'll see the link, and we'll see you there. Holy cow. I'm looking at it right now. It has like a gold wrapper. David
Yep.
Protein.
So I don't think he's launched it yet, but if you're like, hey, you're the RX guy. RX guy was like the pinnacle of all of this stuff a few years ago, and now you're building this ultra macro bar, you're going to be pretty successful.
Well, the problem with these food brands is you don't make any money until hopefully one day you get a big exit like RX Bar. Because if you're growing, then you have no cash. You're constantly raising cash and spending it on new inventory.
So is the inventory game. Yeah, that's the problem.
It's the e-commerce game.
I know. I will say on that though, Do you want to talk about the other thing I texted you? Because this is a food
Absolutely.
company. I won't say who told me it because I don't like outing people in public, and I don't think these numbers are private. Do you know Element? I would assume, right?
Element what?
Just LMNT, and maybe electrolytes then?
No, I don't know if I do.
Oh, you don't know these guys? Okay. Look them up, and then just
Okay.
for the sake of this call. All right, so for
Okay.
anyone
Yes,
listening,
I've seen this before, but I don't consume this.
you don't. Any reason why, or just haven't gotten around to it?
I don't see it around. Like it looks familiar. The branding looks familiar, but yeah, I don't see it around.
Okay. So I know we're kind of putting you on the spot here right now, but these are electrolyte packets. They've got salt in them, they have potassium, magnesium, like their whole thesis is the FDA or whoever's in charge of the narrative around nutrition in the US always saying salt is bad, sodium is bad,
Yeah.
have less salt, have less sodium. They're like, okay, if you are sedentary in your lifestyle and you have like diabetes, sure. If you're an athlete, if you're mildly fit, if you sweat during the day, if you like have cognitive functions that require a lot of your focus throughout the day, the average American is actually not getting enough salt for their day to day. And so they create these really easy supplement packets where you can drop it in your drink. I buy them all the time. They taste great. They're solid. And genuinely notice that, like, if you not even if you're hungover, but like if coffee's just not doing it for you, because maybe you've drank in your third cup of coffee and you're super dehydrated at this point, these actually make me feel better, both physically and mentally, because it's like, oh yeah, I'm like replenishing something in my body. Seeing what you see now, how much do you think they do in sales and profit? I know that's a loaded question.
First of all, like before I even get there, like I totally agree with you. Like I did keto a while back, and like all of the issues that people have with keto is because lack of salt, right? And like if you can get enough salt, magnesium, potassium in, you're fine. And when I was running ultra marathons, like it all came down to electrolytes. And I genuinely believe that not enough people are drinking electrolytes on a daily basis. So I'm sold on the thesis. Like, geez, I don't know, 9 figures top line, 8 figures bottom line, 130 million in sales, and with like, let's say 22% margins.
Okay, you're extremely close. 200 million top line, 40 million bottom line.
Dang. Okay. Wow.
For a salt packet, that's pretty crazy.
It's crazy because I want to launch something like this. I wrote a newsletter about it. Did you read that? It's called Busy Juice.
Oh yeah. Yes, I did.
Yeah, it's just because like I had the same problem. I wanted to drink a gallon of water a day, but water's boring, right? And so I started getting those Mio packets just to make it more flavored. And then it's like, okay, this is like 100% red dye number 40, and I'm drinking a gallon of it. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but this can't, and it's not like I felt bad. I just thought this can't be good for me. Right.
Yeah.
And so I just started ordering crap on Amazon and kind of experimenting, tinkering, and came up with this lemonade. And it tastes like Chick-fil-A lemonade, but it's just lemon, stevia, and caffeine. And I drink again. And so I know exactly what's in it, and it's caffeinated, and it keeps me energized all day long, and it keeps me hydrated. And I can even put light salt. So light salt is like part potassium, part sodium. And then you just got to throw some magnesium in there and you've got all your electrolytes. So I've been drinking this myself, and like I plan to sell it one day, but it's one of those things where it's like you've got a consumer package good, and it's e-commerce, like it's food, it's like all the hard things. So I'm not excited about starting it, but I also want to.
But I will say, so, don't sell the liquid, right? Like I think
I was going to only do powder.
I bet you could probably do that. So I know I've read Own the Day, Own Your Life by Marcus Aubrey. Anyway, like a lot of cool things from that book. It's like, you know it all, but it's like a good read because it's just talks about, hey, here's how to think about having a successful day as it relates to relationships, working out, eating, like all of this type of stuff. But it always talks about, and it was something I did for like a year afterwards, and now I'm more in the element game, but you wake up in the morning, you're already dehydrated, rather than just like, don't drink coffee right away. Like, and this is all the Andrew Huberman stuff too now, but drink a glass of water and squeeze like a wedge of lemon in it and a little bit of salt. Drink that, chill for like 20 minutes, and then get your coffee. And I started doing that. I was like, wow, this is like maybe placebo, sure, noticeably different for me. And I feel like for your busy juice thing too, I could also see like, maybe something that Element's not doing is they got the magnesium, potassium, whatever, but like even very small particles of dehydrated lemon, dehydrated orange could potentially be cool as well. So, I mean, I don't want to just make this an ad for like an electrolyte thing. I think the reason I texted it to you from a business standpoint is this is also an idea that I've had for a while. There is this entire category that I've talked about for 2 to 3 years that I really like, but unfortunately, it's a hard to execute upon category. And the category is essentially like minimalism in a sense. So I really like the idea of detoxing, using your phone less. I really like the idea of meditation. I like the idea of fasting, things that are essentially removing the stimulus and, extra things that are constantly sold to us on a daily basis. The tough part about that category is like by nature, it's hard to create products and services in that category because you want to do less. And I think that with Element, knowing how big it is, and I think people are starting to begin to see that they are either, doing a lot of sales or everywhere. I think that doing very niche versions of that would be extremely beneficial. So niche versions from one of two ways. One is what does it help with? Okay, collagen element can, for nails and skin and all of that. That's starting to get overdone a little bit. But the one that I wanted to do was just called like Fast Right or something like that. And it's literally Element designed for people who do intermittent fasting.
Like it doesn't break their fast.
Exactly. So it's you wake up in the morning, you put this in the water, exactly what I just described here from the beginning of the day side. And it's got supplement style margins, right? You sell the thing for, 80, 90% gross margins on it. And you just put it in your water in the morning and you get after it and you drink your black coffee and you have this. Doesn't break the fast. Make sure you have your electrolytes, no flavoring. You can add flavoring if you want, whatever. But like, I think that is a cool concept. Or you could genuinely just take it and like slap a sport thing on it. And so have it be Element for soccer, Element for football, Element for track, whatever.
What about like even Element for like ultra endurance events? And you could distribute that by just sending free packets to all the races to just put in like the race packets.
Yep. LA Marathon a couple of years ago, and like there was Noon everywhere. The Noon things. The idea is not new. It's like there's a bunch of these coming out, but everyone wants to be the Nikes. Everyone wants to be the something to everyone category. Like even, okay, I don't know if you did this, but like, would you always eat before you would go on runs?
Not usually. I usually ran fasted.
Same. So I feel like a sick name would be Run Fast.
Yeah.
And it's like little salt packets before, and it's like, catch double entendre, is that the word? Where it's like, okay, you're running in a fasted state. Make sure you at least have the electrolytes that you need prior to going.
Dude, one of the stupidest good ideas that I had about a month ago on this podcast is electrolytes for dogs. Because I went on a run and I came home and my dog just started licking me, which he doesn't normally do. And I'm thinking, you just need electrolytes. Like you are leaching my salt. And then I thought, if I were like a dog lover, I would think, oh, you poor thing. Like I'm not. I love my dog, but I'm not like a dog person. So I thought you could totally just literally get some co-packer that has salt, magnesium, and potassium to put it in a container and just say, put this label on it for dogs, and just sprinkle it on their food.
I was going to say everyone's targeting the dog food bowl, right? Like you look at Farmer's Dog, it's $100 million plus business. Everyone's targeting the dog food bowl. No one's talking about the dog water bowl. And it's just water. Like literally, I same exact story. I'm down the shore in Jersey right now. I went swimming in the ocean yesterday. I came back and my parents' dog was just like licking my ankle. I was like, oh yeah, you probably want the salt. But like, the most fun thing that happens to a dog's water bowl is you put ice in it. Right? Like there's gotta be something better than that for the dog. And especially people who want the supplements or whatever. I think even honestly, I wonder if it would change the taste or if they would notice, but like people who give dogs their supplements, that's a big category. Know if anyone is doing dog supplement powders where you just mix it into the water bowl. That seems pretty interesting to me. I don't know, dogs don't drink all their water in one sitting. So maybe like it recrystallizes or you have to mix it occasionally. That might be annoying. I don't know if it's viable, but I could see that being kind of cool.
You know what else you could do that isn't as easily shippable as a powder, but have you ever been deer hunting or anything?
No,
like that?
Love to.
Yeah. So when you go deer hunting, you can buy like these salt blocks and you'll put it out there by the stand and the deer will come and just lick it because they need salt. I wonder if you could get those, like get the same manufacturer to just like break them down into much smaller pieces and just put that like next to the bowl or like the food bowl or the water bowl. Cause that is one concern is like your customers might oversalt the dog and like kill them.
Yeah.
And it could be a big liability. But if it was like, if the dog could control the level of salt that he was taking in, it could be a different experience altogether.
Oh, 100%. I will also say, just that just reminded me of a small story that you would appreciate being an ultra runner. So I have a friend, his name's Ryan. We grew up in the same town together, and the guy is just a savage. He runs ultra marathons several times a year. Like, he's done like the Moab 240, and like
that
he's
one's
not
insane.
It's insane. Well, what the craziest part about it too, isn't the Moab 240 like, I always joke about this. It's like 242 miles, and they're like, we're just gonna round down. Like, when you're at the point where it's so many miles that like you just round down. But anyway, the guy is not built like a runner. He's 5'10", 190 pounds, stocky guy. But he's just mentally different. And he was telling me this story where he had one DNF. And for listeners right now who don't know what a DNF is did not finish. So he's had one DNF in his entire career. And the DNF came because he was training here in New Jersey all summer for this race. I forget what I think it was the Bigfoot something, one of the Bigfoot races.
That's one of the other 200 milers. It's in Washington, like Mount Olympus.
Okay.
Bigfoot
so that's
200.
So, yeah. So he was training for that. And when he's out here training, I guess you know this as well, like you take salt packets because you sweat so much, and it's not like you're running a marathon where it's like, okay, I can get through it. Like there are points where like if you don't have the salt or electrolytes, like you're shutting down. And so he's taking salt packets out here because it was summertime and he's sweating like crazy. And he goes to run the race, and he made two mistakes. The first mistake he made was he bought the salt packets, but he like just bought them out of a CVS or whatever and didn't look at them. And they were 3 times the strength of what he had been taking out here.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then secondly, the climate was dramatically different. I think if you said Washington, I thought it was Colorado for some reason, but like somewhere it was just drier and less humid. And so he was sweating less naturally. And so he's taking 3 times more salt and sweating, call it 30% less. And he hit a point where he's like mile 95, and he's like, my feet are so swollen that I physically cannot move anymore. And like, I think he broke some bones and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not to derail from the dog supplement one, but it's a crazy story.
No, I've done that because it's really hard to regulate or even know how much salt you need. Like I'd run ultra marathons and I'd roll up to an aid station and they'd have salt pills, and I'm just like, 7, sure, and then like, I go to change my shoes and my feet look like elephant feet. They're insane. Yeah. And then I'll start peeing like every 10 minutes on the trail, like an insane amount. And it's just getting all those fluids out because you've been retaining it. So I could totally see that happening.
They're a crazy business. It's also great. Well, sorry, actually very unimpressive businesses, it seems like. From Ryan, who I talked to, he says how, he'll go to a race and there are a ton of volunteers, and there are like 35 people in the starting line. And I was like, is the race making any money? He's like,
I know.
No, these people just love their stuff.
I know. Like I wonder the same thing. They're always begging for volunteers, but then they have, 3,000 entrants paying $200 a piece. And I'm like, how are you not making money on this?
What are your thoughts on Hyrox?
Okay. What is Hyrox?
You don't know Hyrox?
Dude, I don't know Hyrox.
Well, so look it up. So Hyrox is, I think it'll start taking off. It is CrossFit, but different.
Okay, it's like a Tough Mudder, but for CrossFit.
Yes. Okay. Well said. So it's how do I explain it? Anyone who listens to this right now that actually does Hyrox is going to critique the hell out of my description. So I'll read.
That's fine. Hey, I never even heard of
it. Yes, I'll read the summary right now. With over 40 plus global races in 2023, seeing over 90,000 athletes and 50,000 spectators, welcome to the World Series of Fitness Racing. Hyrox is a fitness competition that combines an 8-kilometer of running and 8 functional workout stations. It is an indoor hybrid fitness racing event that alternates running with functional exercises. It bills itself as the World Series of Fitness Racing and a sport for everybody. So
is it like the CrossFit Games with more running?
I think it's the CrossFit Games, but more accessible. And I think here's the cool thing. I do a combination, and I think my knee's pretty banged up right now, so less so right now, but I do a combination of running, jiu-jitsu, and lifting. I'm probably going to not do as much jiu-jitsu in the future because I'm getting way too hurt. But I think people like running, in part from the the health benefits and setting PRs, whatever. But it's specifically, I think, that PR element where when you're running, you can say, damn, I shaved off some time on my splits here. Or I set a new PR for how far I was able to go. And there's like this cool trophy case, Strava badge, feeling to it. Lifting, you don't get that as much unless you're setting PRs. And to be honest, like if you're trying to PR all the time, like you'll probably get hurt, or things just like you look good, you can lift heavy, but you don't feel that good all the time because you're just like, damn, things are tight. I just tweaked my back, whatever. So I think that Hyrox is pretty interesting because it gives people back that competitive nature that they want and that people love as a sport, but in a more functional way that has maybe hopefully a lower injury rate. And it's growing like crazy. Like if you look at even as Google Trends on Hyrox, or you look at all of the gyms that are popping up that are specific gyms for Hyrox athletes, you'll see that it's consistently been picking up for the last 3 to 5 years. And I think that there's a big opportunity to build everything that has already been built for the CrossFit space, for the, every other sport in the world space, specifically for Hyrox, and have a lot of success.
So Hyrox for different sports, basically?
No, I think different businesses for Hyrox.
Okay.
So let's break it down. Like TRX, for example. TRX and Rogue are two really big CrossFit brands. And I'm sure that both of them can be applied to Hyrox as well. But like one thing that Hyrox does as an example is they're really big on assault bikes and ski erg machines. I know that, again, I've never done this. So if people have more information, apologies. But they're really big on those two machines because it's like kind of functional and it's a little bit more cardio based and pushing yourself. Like, can you develop things that make you better at those machines? Can you develop a supplement brand, as we were talking about before, that is the supplement of Hyrox? Can you build a content and news site that is specifically for Hyrox? Will you build, like, I have a buddy who is building a gym right now over in Denver, where the average membership for that gym, the average amount that people spend every single year at that gym is $20,000, and they're marketing themselves as the premier Hyrox gym. And they do like blood work testing, and they do recovery, and recovery I'm sure is a big one here. So I think that there are a lot of opportunities to see how you can make money from this growing sport.
So piggyback on Hyrox in other ways.
1,000%.
I like that. I can't believe I've never heard of it. I mean, I've never been involved in CrossFit or any of that. Like, I just like to run and ride my bike all by myself for many miles at a time. That's all I do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this, I don't know if you have a competitive nature. I don't know if you're running those ultras more for yourself. I think it's worth a shot. Like, I also just like it from the standpoint of, I've done CrossFit before. I think CrossFit's cool. I don't know, like, I'm about to sound older than I am on this podcast, but like, dude, shit just starts hurting. And I'm like, I just tore my meniscus last month. I re-herniated a disc 3 months ago. And I'm at this point where I'm like, I like having hobbies, but I also like walking. And so I need to start picking my hobbies a little bit more carefully.
Yeah. I think I'm built like a Cadillac. I'm like thick, and like, I don't get injured ever, knock on wood. But I know that if I run and I cycle, like, I'm not fast, but I'm just like sturdy. I'm just like a V8. I'm not going to win any races, but I'm just sturdy. So
it's good. It's a good one. Maybe update your Twitter bio, built like a Cadillac.
I want to hear about your lead gen business idea, because I'm doing something in this right now, and it is, I'm like so excited about it. And I just want to copy and paste it in all the industries.
All right. So I was hesitant to share this one because like I genuinely want to start this one, but I in the spirit of not gatekeeping business ideas, and all I'll preface with this is, if you hear this idea and you're like, that's a good idea, I'm going to do that, just like DM me and like, let me be a part of it. Like, let me put up money for it in some way, or like, I don't know, anything. I think it's such a good idea and will 100% work. So here's the concept. My girlfriend can't burp. And there is a large community of individuals who cannot burp.
That was Andrew Wilkinson, right? He just came out. Yeah, he just came out and did this long Twitter thread that was all about how he couldn't burp, but he fixed it and his life has changed. So
how did he fix it?
I don't remember, but it's there.
I bet it's what I'm about to describe then. So if you're in the subreddit called r/noburp, there are 30,000 people in it, or close to 30,000 people. And lately, the more I go around drinking, and this came up 2 weeks ago, and I'm like drinking at a bar in New York, I'll bring up, Sarah usually drinks wine because the carbonation really upsets her, or she'll drink, twisted teas or some kind of like no carbonated beverage, because the carbonation after 2 or 3, you're like, damn, I feel like I have to burp, but I can't. And it's like really bloating and uncomfortable. So here's something that everyone is starting to find out who experiences this. There is a way to solve this. You get Botox in your neck. very little, like not
That's what Andrew Wilkinson did. I pulled up the tweet as you were talking.
So he got Botox in his neck?
He didn't say neck, but he said Botox.
I believe it's in your neck. This is not medical advice. I don't want to pretend to come off as a doctor. I'm not. I think that's the solution based on what I've read and based on what I've researched for my girlfriends. But it's like you have this feeling your entire life of like the equivalent of like chugging a beer and a seltzer and then having to hold it in afterwards. Like nobody wants that. And so it is a growing thing. There's somewhat of a hereditary thing. Like I know her mom can't. We met some people over the 4th of July. We brought this up and they're like, I haven't been able to too. I thought it was just me. Like I thought I was this crazy person, but like my mom can't either. And so I think it's a little bit hereditary. And I think it's a bigger thing than most people realize. And when I say Botox, like, I don't know, maybe I have somewhat of a stigma of this, but like, it's not like get rid of your wrinkles. It's like you look physically no different afterwards. But again, I don't want to pretend like I'm giving medical advice here. I think it has something to do with your lymph nodes or something that allows you to like contract them and effectively get air out of your stomach. I think that it would be such a killer and easy idea to start a content website called Burp Again or whatever you want and make so much content about the subject that it would not be hard to rank to the top of Google for why can't I burp, how to burp again, like bloating after carbonated beverage, things like that. And then creating lead gen for local areas where you can refer patients out to Botox doctors, which I think, they do a handful of things, plastic surgery and all of that other types of stuff. And so like you're selling a very high ticket thing. Like you'll probably get paid very handsomely for these leads. And I think it would crush. I don't think it would be a $10 million a year business. I think that if you do it right and put it on autopilot, you can probably get this thing up to doing a couple $100,000 per year in mostly profit. Again, this is something that like, if I had no companies today, I would do this tomorrow. But unfortunately, it's just like not worth the time. So if somebody's listening to this and they're like, damn, I like that concept, shoot me a Twitter DM, Connor Gross, and I'll pay for the money to set it up. You have to do all the work and I'll kind of coach you through it a little bit. But I love the idea so much.
I love this idea. So I did a little research while you were talking. First of all, burpagain.com is open. So you could buy that before this podcast goes live. Second of all, I pulled up the Google Keyword Planner. I looked up Botox, can't burp, I can't burp. The competition on all of them is low. There are 200,000 average monthly searches for Botox alone, only in the US. And the competition is low. So top of page bid is $5, but it's still low competition, 22% year over year change. So completely sold on this. More generally speaking, I'm completely sold on lead generation sites with programmatic SEO and basically automated AI generated content plus paid Google ads, like kind of like a 3-tier strategy. So we're trying this. I'll tell you off the podcast what the industry is, but we're trying this in an industry right now. And I've done a ton of research on Google keywords, and there's well over 100, maybe 300 different industries that could go just as well, if not better, than the industry we chose. And we haven't even launched, but we're just putting out AI generated content that fits certain long tail keywords. And then we have 3 different services that we offer in 1,000 different US cities. So we've programmatically generated 3,000 landing pages, and we're upping that to 5,000 here soon.
That's just crazy.
Like service in city state with like a lead capture form on every one. And we've only indexed like 236 of these 5,000 pages so far. And every single day, it's like more and more and more. We're ranking in the top 10 for terms. We're getting clicks. We're getting leads. All of this.
You're getting leads.
Yes, like actual leads, purely organic. Now, before I did any of this, I tested it with paid Google ads. And I was like, okay, I like this is really good. Let's invest some money into SEO. And it's really working. And so we're actually thinking seriously about launching like a programmatic SEO agency to where we could do this for others, right? It's like, give me the industry. We'll just kind of deliver it, tie a bow on it, deliver you a package. You run the whole business. We'll give you some pointers, but you're going to pay us $3 to $5, $6, $7 grand to just get everything set up for you.
I love it. I think the thing that is helpful here is I think you have to create a lot of content around this business model. Cause I think, affiliate marketers and people who are like deeper in the trenches on the internet know about this all day. It's not something that is widely talked about right now.
They do.
At least in the communities that you and I run in. So I think proving that this can be an effective business model is super important. One thing that I missed the mark on, and sorry, let me actually, before I say what I missed the mark on, I think the biggest thing for this, whether it is a service or a product, because I think people do a lot of the affiliate product stuff right now, it has to be high ticket. It makes no sense
Totally
unless
agree.
it's high ticket. And
Totally
I remember
agree.
it was over COVID.
Or highly recurring. I mean, it's the same
Or
thing,
that.
right?
Sure, yeah. High LTV. Let's call it that. Lifetime value. And I think one thing that I missed the mark on over COVID is I was like, I just sold my company. I want to get into some kind of affiliate site. And I spent a day or two looking up content keywords. And I think both my biggest strength and biggest weakness is I have a stupid bias to action where like it's great in most day-to-days. When starting new things, it tends to be a hindrance because I'm like, I don't want to spend the time researching and figuring out if this is the right thing. Let me just buy the domain, start the website, hire a writer, build out a keyword plan, and just go after it. And I did this in the dentistry space. So I started, I think it was, I don't think I own the domain anymore. I think it was called like Superior Smile or something like that. And I was like doing lead gen or affiliate sales for water picks, for retainers, for like all of that type of stuff. Very, very low ticket items. It wasn't worth the time, wasn't worth the energy. I shut it down like months later. So total waste of time. But where I think I missed the mark is I used to own a tiny house blog, and the tiny house blog never made that much money. I think it made $1,000 or $2,000 in profit every single month, but like nothing crazy. But like, you know, we ranked for, I bet if I even look it up now, we ranked for like best appliances for tiny house, best dishwasher for tiny house, best furnace for tiny house. And what I should have done a better job at is, you know, we had all this traffic. We were doing original content too. Like I literally hired a writer to scrape Facebook groups and like do like essentially like, I don't know what they're called, like profile pieces on different people who own tiny houses. We should have done way more lead gen for somebody who wants a tiny house built. You're selling a $20,000, $30,000 thing, if not arguably more. And like people would pay several $100s for that. And I should have done that. It just was like, it was the lowest priority on my to-do. Hence why I never got around to it.
We're buying tiny houses right now for RV parks, and you almost can't find them for under 70 grand. I mean, they go up to 150.
So way off on the prices. Yeah, exactly. So, you know.
I mean, there's always a trade-off though. There's a trade-off between the volume and the ticket price, right? So
100%.
So you've got to find that happy medium.
Yeah, what I like about the service one, like I think services are better. Services are for sure better because especially with like, and also, as I said my idea earlier, like big disclaimer, big asterisk on all of this. I don't know if that's legal. I don't know if you can legally sell leads in the medical space. I think there are laws around legally selling leads to a legal space, like to attorneys and stuff.
There is for legal. I don't know about healthcare.
I have no idea either. It feels like if it is for legal, maybe it should be for healthcare, but that's a whole other thing. But point being, I like the business model a lot.
I think you nailed it with a high ticket, and we are doing that in ours. But like I was looking up kitchen remodeling. No one's bidding on kitchen remodeling. And that's like a $30,000, $40,000 thing. But the other side of the equation that is easy to ignore is you want a buyer of these leads that has a nationwide brand, or else you're going to be juggling like hundreds of relationships with these blue collar business owners that are super flaky, you know?
Such a good point.
So if you can find this Venn diagram overlap of like high ticket, high volume, high search volume, low competition, and nationwide brands where you can talk to one person and he's like, I've got 362 locations in all these cities. We'll buy everything you send us. That is the gold mine. And I think they do exist, but it's hard to find. And the other asterisk here is what is Google's AI going to do to this?
Yeah, 100%. That's also why I think there's maybe a bigger push to get into YouTube. Like at the end of the day, you need some level of discoverability. All I'll say, at least while we're speaking here today in July 17th, 2024, like I am not super worried about that off the bat. Like you Google stuff right now and they show you their AI prompts. And like, I think Google's doing a big disservice to themselves right now, in my personal opinion, because their AI suggested stuff is so bad that, and I don't know if you agree with this, but like, it's quite literally trained me to automatically skip over it and go to what I'm used to and what I'm familiar with. Now, don't get me wrong, over the next 10 years, younger generations, maybe it gets better. Maybe they start looking at it first and they're like, oh no, it's better. And then we get made fun of for being the old people who doesn't read the AI prompt because it was bad when we first saw it. Like, totally valid. But I think there's enough of a cash grab window in the short term. And I think that there's always going to be people who need to find people and have like discoverability via Google, via something.
Yeah, and I think no matter what Google does with their AI, I think the localization is important because like I was looking up one of these search terms in Clarksville, Tennessee, and let's just say it was fence repair, Clarksville, Tennessee, and there were none, right? And this isn't true, but it was some service in Clarksville, Tennessee, and there were 0 locations. Whereas you would think Clarksville, there's like 100,000 people, you would think there would be 3. Right. And so if I'm Google's AI and I want to show you the best answer and someone's searching fence repair, Clarksville, Tennessee, even that like programmatic website, they're going to show you because what else are they going to show you? Whereas if you're competing on a worldwide or a nationwide level, they might like all those little gimmicks and hacks, they might not ever get shown in the new AI, right? They might show you the most relevant thing and only one instead of pages of 10. Another thing that I like about this programmatic idea is I compare it to like roll-ups. Like private equity roll-ups. I love roll-ups because there's so many industries to roll up. And so it's like, there's not a lot of competition in a lot of these. Like I heard a podcast about a guy that rolled up music schools only in Denver and sold it for $40 million, right? Like who's thinking of rolling up music schools? They're like, let's do self-storage. Let's roll up dentists. Like all the obvious stuff. But there's still thousands of industries that will be rolled up. And some of them might take 2 decades just because there's so many and people don't think of it. And so I think of this opportunity that same way where, the growth hackers and the gray hat guys and the black hat wizard and all those guys have heard about this and they've been doing this for years, but there's still so many random niches and opportunities that they haven't even thought of yet.
Yeah. And also like, that's just the nature of it, right? Like there are more popping up every single day. If you started a lead gen for people to sign up for their first Hyrox race, right? Like new industry, brand new thing, like people want that. And so like if you have a great topical authority for how to get fit and like do it in an evergreen niche, you'll always have more opportunities, I think, afterwards. And that's also why people always stress the email list stuff and being able to own your audience. Like there are certainly benefits and advantages towards that as well. I was just mentioning the roll-up part in general, not to derail the conversation, but one thing that I think is pretty cool is I was having conversations with this one guy down in South Florida last Christmas, and he is starting a franchise where all he does is he buys chiropractor shops. I think in terms of like business models and changing, everyone who owns and buys software is very familiar with the reoccurring revenue model and how that can increase multiples and how that's like such a good business model. He's buying chiropractor shops, and all he's doing is he's changing the pricing model from, if it's, I don't know what the numbers are, so I'm going to get this wrong. Let's say it's $120 to visit a chiropractor and you go once a month. He's going to charge people $200 per month on a recurring revenue, and you get unlimited cracks. Let's be honest, certain things this works really well with, others it doesn't. AMC launches their movie pass. Like, do you want to go to the movie theaters more than 2 times a month to make it worth it? Probably not. But on the contrary too, like I know people who buy car washes and they sell an unlimited car wash plan because you're paying $15 for your normal car wash, but what if you pay $25 and every time you drove by, you can get it done? Well, guess what? The cost of water and soap is negligible, and the amount of times that you're actually going to use it versus it being nice in theory is low. And so I like the idea too of taking those businesses that are usually a one-off and there's something you do on a reoccurring basis, but like not crazy often, and saying do it unlimited numbers of times, but you're also going to be paying a monthly subscription.
That's genius. Like, and he's doing that because it's already proven out. Like it just works, right? If it works in Destin, Florida, it's going to work in Bellevue, Washington. You can do it with like teeth whitening too, like unlimited.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you? Yeah, I don't know why that's such a dumb thought of mine. I was like, do you need to get it done more than once? But yeah, I drink enough coffee that I can imagine getting it done more than once would be helpful. What about haircuts? You just got the haircut, you come in with a fresh cut. Would you pay something?
I wouldn't, because I'm so cheap, dude. I go like 3 months between haircuts just because I get busy and I don't really care what my hair looks like. I'm married. What do I got to worry about?
That's a fair point.
I do like that idea though.
I think it would work in New York. I also think it would work well because the type of person that wants a lot of haircuts throughout the month has shorter hair. And so it's not like it would take super long, especially if you're going frequent enough where it's like, hey, not a whole hell of a lot has happened in the last week, but like I just want to get like lined up before a Friday night out or something like that.
Yeah, I'm wondering like how you could go into like a barber shop and have them test just so you could like be a passive observer and see if it works. Then once it works, it's like, all right, I'm going to buy 1,000 barber shops.
Yeah, I bet it would work. Yeah, 100%.
There's got to be one out there that does that, I would have to think.
I bet there is. Reach out to them, see if life's better or worse. They're like, yeah, this one guy comes in every single day. He's so annoying. All he wants to do is talk. There's probably, you got to put some rules around it.
Your card didn't process this month, bro. Sorry.
Yeah, for real.
Well, I know you've got a hard stop, but thank you for joining. Connor, where can we find you?
Yeah, if you want to check me out, if you want to launch the Botox idea, hit me up. Twitter at C_GRO. I wrote a newsletter that is this, but words. It's biz brainstorms.com. So feel free to check that out as well. And yeah, thanks for having me on the show, Chris.
Yeah. And if you guys like Connor, which I'm sure you will, let me know in the comments. And I want to have him on regularly so we can just riff on ideas. All right. What'd you think? How'd you like Connor? Reach out to him if you want to start that Botox business. Let me know in the comments if I should have him back on again, and we'll do this again. Anyway, please subscribe, like, share with your friends, and we'll see you next time.